Hi, everyone. Welcome and thanks for attending. I'm Scott at Chief Architect, and we're here today to discuss customizing cabinets. You may notice my occasional assistant Maya here. Also on today's call are a number of Chief Architect staff members to keep an eye on me and also to help with your questions. I'm first going to go through my presentation, which should be just under 30 minutes. During this time, you can chat in your questions. And then following the presentation, you can raise your hand, we'll unmute your mic, and you can ask your question live. You'll find these control settings in your GoToWebinar control panel. Our session today will be recorded. I will send out, or we will send out, a link to this in the next day or so. And we will also include a survey in there. Always appreciate your feedback so we can improve upon these. And with that, let me get ready and switch over here and we'll start today's presentation. In this session, I will cover how to customize cabinets in Chief Architect. I'll go through the box construction, changing the door and drawer styles, configuring face items, adding cabinet appliances, accessories, and fixtures, and then finally, dimensioning to cabinet face items or openings. Let's go into the program and get started. I have one of the sample plans open in Chief Architect, and I'm going to begin the session by talking about how cabinets work and the basics of their operation. Let's just rotate around to this blank wall and maybe zoom in just a little bit. And I'm going to use the base cabinet tool and place a base cabinet against this back wall. When you place a cabinet in the program, as we zoom in a little bit, the cabinet defaults are such that you can define when you place a cabinet what the countertop, what the door style, what the hardware looks like, and then in the program when you click on a cabinet and you go to resize it, our cabinets are set to bump in 3-inch increments. Also notice when I did that operation, when the cabinet is at 26 inches and wider, there is a setting in there that will change the door to a double door. You can always override that. Also, when you're resizing your cabinets, I have mine set up to bump in 3-inch increments. You can easily adjust that in your default settings. As I go over to the cabinets and come down to the general cabinet settings, down in here is where you can set this cabinet resizing. As I mentioned, mine is set to be in 3-inch increments. That's also the setting that we ship with the out-of-the-box experience. If you're a custom cabinet maker and you want to make that adjustment to 1 inch or even less, you can type in any value, and it just makes it a little bit easier when you're resizing your cabinets. Of course, when you open up a cabinet, let's just double click here. Cabinets can be sized down to the 1/16 of an inch. And any value you want to type in, you can just come in and put in a very precise value for your cabinets. Now, for cabinet box construction in Chief Architect, you can either choose that a cabinet is framed or frameless. When your cabinets are framed, you're going to get a few different options here. And I am using version X13. One of the new options is to have an extended style. And if I were to just come in here and put an extended style maybe of 5 inches, you'll see that in the preview diagram down here that extended style automatically appears, and then you can list that in your cabinet nomenclature, and then if you want to put in your cabinet schedule, cut to fit, or whatever appropriate information is, you can do that. So this is a new feature that we've added in Chief Architect X13. It's only available when your cabinets are framed. That goes away or grays out when the cabinet is marked as a frameless cabinet. Also new in Chief Architect X13 is a category for top and bottom. You can control if the cabinet has a top or has a bottom. If we come in here and remove the bottom, and then we'll just kind of rotate around, that gives you the option to remove the bottom or the top of a cabinet. Could be you have a cabinet for a coffee station, for a wall cabinet sitting on top of a base cabinet, and you want to remove the bottom. For your framed cabinets, there is a traditional overlay setting. If If you want to adjust the side and vertical overlap, you can do that down here. Or using full overlay, you can specify what that reveal amount is. In my case, I have it at a 1/16. And then there is an inset option for your framed cabinets that you can set up. A few other options for your cabinet corner treatment. I'll just move that back to a full overlay. Now, in the cabinet dialog for the front, sides, and back is where you can control your face items. And currently we have a very simple cabinet. Let's come over here, and a lot of times what I like to do is click on the face item, and that will actually turn the side item to custom face. At this point you can make any adjustments into your face items by adding and removing items. And in this example, if I take this door and let's just change the face item type, there's several that you can choose from in this drop down. To make a bank of drawers, I'll change the face item to a drawer. And then an easy way to make this adjustment is then to split this horizontally, and that will give you a 3-drawer bank pretty quickly. If I do the same thing, let's click on the bottom drawer down here and then split horizontal. That will make the adjustment, take that face item, split it. Now you'll notice we kind of have a crazy configuration of face items. If you move up to the vertical layout up here and then you click the equalize button, that will then spread out all of those face items for that particular category. At the top of this vertical layout, there's another option that you could do if you wanted to split this vertically and create a double set of face items that would mirror and reflect that. You have control over that. If I come down and you click on the vertical layout, you'll notice that there's a gray highlight. And now you can make the adjustment. That item width would have been split equally, but if I adjust this to 12 inches, you'll see that you can make the adjustment right in here. And you can create very unique and custom cabinets, and this is a great way to go through and experience it. Note there isn't an undo operation in here, so a lot of times what I'll do is open and close this dialog so that my changes are easy to track. Let's talk about how to customize your door and drawer styles. When I place a new cabinet, this is using my default slab door and drawer that I've defined for my cabinet defaults. And when you begin a new project and you're working with a client, typically you're going to have a few options for the door and drawer style. Could be a custom cabinet, could be a manufacturer cabinet. In Chief Architect, we don't decipher between manufacturer custom cabinets. What makes that unique is applying those styles from the library. Let me just open up the library, and I've been using a manufacturer from Ultracraft. To make the change with these door and drawer styles, all I need to do is come down, find the profile of the door, and then come over. You'll notice my cursor changes to a replacement handle, and then you click on the door and it will replace it. The same thing with the drawer style. It may cause me to replace that hardware, and you can make those changes pretty quickly visually just by finding the profile inside the library, clicking and replacing it. Now, how do you get these manufacturer cabinets in the program? If you come up underneath your library option and you go to Get Additional Content Online, this will open up the Chief Architect 3D library. These libraries are organized by category. If you come down to the cabinet section, then this will expand and show you all of the different manufacturers that you can then download and install inside the program. So as you kind of scroll down here, you can pick and choose those particular manufacturers, and then you saw how I applied that door style onto the cabinet box. Let's go back into the program here. The next thing you can do for your cabinets is to choose the wood species and the colors. In this Ultracraft cabinet catalog, if we scroll down, what you're going to find for those manufacturers, typically they're going to have wood species and finishes. If we come over and we look at the wood species, you can see the different styles of wood species that they have. You can then apply those. Let's go ahead and just pick this alder color. I'm going to apply that to the entire box, spray it on there, and now you can see the wood species change. In this case, they also have finishes for this alder. If we kind of come down and look at the different options that we have for the wood finishes, let's go ahead and just pick one of these somewhat neutral colors. And then when you spray this on the cabinet, and I'm going to do this to begin with in what's called a component mode. Let's just switch this in my lower left hand corner to component mode, and I'm just going to spray on the door here. You're going to notice for the drawer, in this case, it only applied it out to the outer frame, and it didn't apply it to the inner frame because I'm using component mode. When you're using component mode, it will apply it on the smallest element of the cabinet box. Some manufacturers have it where the face and frame are separated. In this case, the Ultracraft has that definition, and you can get that level of detail. Let's go ahead and use this more natural color so we can see inside here. Now you're going to notice that currently my cursor is in the shape of a spray can. This is a solid body paint. You won't see any wood grain when you're using this mode. Let me come down, and I'm going to switch this to a blend or a stain mode indicated by a paint roller. So when I click on this blend colors with materials, and then we come up and we click on the outer frame, may be difficult to see on your screen here, but I can still actually see the wood grain through that stain mode. And that's the way you can change it between stain and full body mode. Let's go ahead and just use a slightly darker color. Again, let's apply this to the entire object. So this will now swap out and paint the entire object. We'll swing around because we were using a slightly different color. Click on there, and now you can see the adjustment to this cabinet box using this storm gray color code from the Ultracraft catalog. Now, there are other paint companies, whether it's Sherwin-Williams, Behr, Benjamin Moore, and you can apply those to your cabinets in the same method that we've just done here. Now, as I move on and take a look at placing fixtures and appliances for your cabinets, some items, if we just make this a little bit wider so that we can put a sink base in here, some of these items will fit into a cabinet. And if we do a search for the galley sink, IWS is one of their part numbers. We just do a search in here. We find the workstation. We click on the cabinet. But this allows you to insert the fixture right into the cabinet. If we toggle back over into our plan view and we look at the nomenclature as we zoom in, it automatically updated from a base 33 to a sink base, SB33, automatically because when we clicked on that, the sink went in, the nomenclature updated. There are accessories you can place in the cabinet. If I want to do a waste pull-out, let me place another base cabinet, and all I'm going to do is click on this cabinet. I'm going to remove the door off of this. Let's go ahead and click on the left door, and then I'm just going to come over and delete that face item, and then we'll delete the opening that's remaining. I now just have a drawer on here. Let's go ahead and just thin this up slightly. Let's go to the general panel. I'm going to take the depth down to 21 inches. And then what I want to do in this case is I want to insert a waste pullout. Click on the face item down here, and then you're going to notice that there is an appliance, door, and drawer specify option for this specific item. If I click on this and then go over into the option, it's actually down at the bottom of the dialog down here for the drawer pullout option. I'm going to browse out to the library, and in my case I've downloaded the Revishelf catalog. Come down to waste containers, and then you can easily pick and choose the waste container you're after. I'm just going to grab one of the 21-inch waste containers. We'll go ahead and insert that into the object. And then one of the things that I like to do, there is the open button. Notice my cabinet is still selected. In my lower edit menu is an open button where you can actually open up the cabinet. We kind of rotate around and you can see that waste container is inside of the cabinet. You can control how far open this is on a per face item basis. Just click on the cabinet, and then inside of the cabinet dialog for the drawer style, I'll just click on the face item for the drawer. Then down under the percent open, you can see that mine's currently set at 50%. We'll just go ahead and increase that. You can also look at this in the dialog. Sometimes you want to leave these closed in your plan view, but you can just look at this in your dialog, kind of rotate around, see what that looks like. One other feature I'd like to point out while we're in the cabinet dialog that we will be adding in Chief Architect X13 is a new setting where you can control the reveal for the right and left side of the cabinet for each face item. You can see my current reveal is a 1/16 of an inch for this drawer. For those situations where you need to adjust the face item reveal distance, this will be a nice new feature that you can use. Furthermore, if your cabinets are using a traditional overlay, you can specify the face item overlap for both the sides and the top and bottom. This can be found underneath the Appliance Door Drawer Specify option. With these two examples, placing a sink inside of a cabinet and a waste pull-out inside of a cabinet, let's look at placing an appliance inside of a cabinet, and specifically let's look at how to place multiple appliances inside of a cabinet. As I kind of zoom out here, let's kind of go through the process and place a full height cabinet. I'm just going to come over here, grab one of our full height cabinets. I'm going to make sure that our dimensions are set up to be 30 inches so that we can easily insert a double oven in here. Now what I'm going to do is come up to the library browser, and I'm looking for a specific oven from Decor. And I've typed in the part number here. You can see that it's brought back the search. You can always then right click in here, show in browser. That will then open it up. You can see exactly where this is located. If you kind of scroll up, you can see that it's under wall ovens. Apparently they have a large catalog, right? And then you can see where it's located. So for this double oven, you can come over here, you can click and place this into the cabinet, and it will place it approximately in the center or do the best that it can. Now let's go through the process and look for a warming drawer. Let's come up here, and I'm going to type in the warming drawer part number, and we'll go ahead and find that. Again, if you right click on this, show in browser, it will then pull you down into that area. You can see that I have the 30-inch warming drawer. Now when I go to click and place this on the cabinet down here, you're going to notice that it replaces the existing fixture. When you have a condition, when you have multiple fixtures or appliances in your cabinet, here's the best way to do it. I'm going to actually press undo twice here. I'm going to come over and click on the face item that I want to place the double oven in. And currently that's marked as a left automatic door. So I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to mark that it's an appliance. You'll see that it replaces the door. And then most of the time what I do is I look at the finish specs for the appliance. There's the cutout and there's the finish. I like to use the finish because appliances will fill the space. And in this case, according to the Decor website, that should be 50 inches and 5/8. Go ahead and press the Tab key, and you're going to notice that a couple things just happened here. One, the door on the top grew to fill the space. And then the appliance actually shrank to 50 and 5/8. It also was marked to lock. The next thing I'm going to do is come down and do a Add New. Let's go ahead and click Add New. I'm going to choose that it's a blank area. I like to use these because unlike a separation, it won't resize. I'm going to set this to be 3/4 of an inch. Go ahead and insert that blank area. Difficult to see, but it's pushed it down at the bottom. And then I'm going to go ahead and add one more. In this case, I'm going to choose that it's appliance, and we're going to use this for the warming drawer. And the specs on that warming drawer, 10 and 1/8 inch. The program also put in a separation for me automatically. I'm just going to remove that because I'm being very specific here. And then at the bottom, I'm actually going to change that from a separation again to a blank area because I don't want that to move around. I'm going to make sure that all of these items that I don't want to move are actually locked. So let's work from the bottom up. The very bottom is a blank area 3/4 of an inch. The next one is an appliance 10 1/8, also locked. Blank area 3/4. A horizontal separation that I don't need, I will remove that. The appliance, which will be the double oven at 50 5/8 inches. I now have the cabinet set up the way I want it to be configured. I may also change this horizontal separation to a blank area just to be consistent, make sure that it's locked. And now all of the items are locked with the exception really of this top auto left door. That will be flexible. You can lock every item in the cabinet except one of them. Now let's go down to the appliance, and at this point we're going to use the exact same option that we did for inserting that waste container, appliance, door, and drawer specify. At this point you can either browse down to the manufacturer catalogs, or if you know the part number, you can simply type in that part number, find it, and then click OK. That will insert it into that space. Next, I'm going to come down to the lower appliance. We'll do the exact same process. Click Specify. And again, I know the part number for that, so we'll just type it in. For the warming drawer, come down and insert that into the bottom section of that tall cabinet. That's one of the easiest ways to go through the process of inserting multiple fixtures or appliances into the cabinet. Let me move on and take a look at a wall cabinet that has two different door styles. As I click and place a wall cabinet and I resize it to 51 inches, in this case for a tall wall cabinet you may want two different door styles. I click on the face item and I use the split horizontal. I now have an upper and a lower set of doors. The next thing I'm going to do is specify the item height. Down here, I'm going to change it from 24 inches to 15 inches. Press the Tab key. The item height will show you the opening amount for this cabinet, and then the front height for that face item is calculated based on the box type in the overlay that you've specified on box construction. In my case, I'm using a full overlay with a 1/16 of an inch reveal. So when you type this number in, again this is for the opening, this is actually for the face item height, and when we go into a wall elevation and run the dimension, you'll be able to see that dimension and how that works. Now that I have the height defined, I can go in and change the door style using the appliance, door, and drawer specify. You're going to notice that the door style is using the default. That means that both of these door styles will be exactly the same when you apply a new door style out of the library to it. So for this individual face item, I'm going to use the drop down. I'm going to come down. I'm going to use frame doors. You could easily browse out to the library, find the door style you want. I'm also going to mark that these are glass doors. Now if I zoom in just a little bit, you're also going to notice that the hardware for the size of this face item is quite large. I can change that. Again, the default is going to be using the same size for both door styles. Under the door handle, I'm going to browse out to the library. I already have a selection for a short pull in my favorites. I'm going to grab that short pull. Notice in the preview it's much more appropriate for that smaller door style. Once we've made those changes, you'll see that it's automatically going to update in the 3D view, and that's the way you can customize your cabinets to have two different door styles for tall wall cabinets. Let's take a look at how to dimension openings and face items. From the floor plan view, I'm going to use the wall elevation camera. I'm going to click and drag through the wall that we've been working on. Let's begin the process by looking at how to dimension to the face items. I'm going to go up into Edit my active view. This is in my upper menu system. Yours may be slightly different depending on which version and product you're using, edit active defaults, and for my selected defaults, I'm going to come down and change my dimension defaults from the kitchen and bath dimension defaults. I've created one for cabinet faces. Now let's go ahead and open this up and take a look at what my settings are. Now this dialog has been updated in version X13. Will look different than the one you're using, assuming you're using version X12. On Locate Manual, this is using the Manual Dimension tool. Underneath my cabinets, I have an option to locate my door and drawer panels. That means when I run a dimension, the only thing that it's going to be looking for is the doors and drawer panels. Everything else is turned off with the exception of my wall sides for both sides. The other thing for this dimension, if we go into the primary format, currently my smallest fraction is set to be at 1/16 of an inch. As you recall, when we were adjusting that face item, it was at the 32nds of an inch. So if you want to be very precise in here, I will change that to be at a 32nds of an inch, and that way when I run the dimension, it will be as precise to this 32nds of an inch that I need it to be. With this dimension for cabinet faces now active, let's go ahead and use the dimension tool, and we'll come through here, and I'm just going to click and drag to create that dimension. Let's go ahead and pull that off to the side, and we'll zoom in a little bit so you can now see the dimension to those face items. One of the things that we've implemented in Chief Architect X13 is the option to suppress the gap. And remember, I'm using a frameless cabinet with a 1/16 inch reveal. You're not seeing that 1/16 inch being displayed in here. That is a setting in the dimension default. If we go back in and just open that up and we display, you'll notice that there's an option here to display the gaps between the cabinet face items. That will then turn that on. We'll just pull that over. You now see that reveal information for the cabinet. And again, just to kind of confirm, we go back into the cabinet. Let's slide this over. We click on that face item, and it's 16 inches and a 32nd. So those two then match. You can make any adjustments right in here. Again, the item height has to do with your opening, and you can set it up that way. Let's take a look at this full height cabinet. Make a copy of it. One of the things I like to do sometimes is dimension for the appliances. And let's just slide this over, make a copy of it, and I'm just going to open this up, and I'm going to remove the appliances out of here. So instead of this being an appliance, let's just change it to an opening. We'll leave the sizing information exactly the same. Maybe easy just to pop those shelves out of there so that we don't see those as we do this. And then the exact same operation for the appliance on the bottom. I'll change that to an opening. This should be small enough where we don't have any shelves in here. And let's take a look at our dimension defaults. Let's go back into Edit Active View. I'm going to change my dimension default from the faces to the openings. These are dimension defaults that I built using Chief Architect X13, just using the new dimension default. So I created a copy of it, and then if we explore this one, let's go back in. Again, if you want that to be a 32nds of an inch, I'm going to leave it at a 1/16. Locate Manual. You'll notice that in this case, the only thing that I have selected are openings. I also have appliances, probably not needed in this case. Everything else is turned off. So when I use this manual dimension tool, all it's going to be looking for are these two items. Let's close that, use our dimension tool. We'll just kind of come down through this cabinet, pick up those dimensions, slide that over. And now I know that I have the exact dimensions for those appliances that I'm going to be ordering. 50 and 5/8, 10 and 1/8. Those were the specs that we looked up from Decor's website. Now the final thing I'll leave you with in this session is we have added control over your base molding, and sometimes you may have cabinets that are more furniture-like. You can kind of see that I have a section view of this buffet with a couple of legs on it. Let me just grab one out of the library over here, and I'll just place this over here in this area. And if you look real closely down at the bottom, it's cutting out the molding behind the cabinet. This is an architectural block. If we open it up, let's go in and take a look. We've added underneath the general panel, do not cut room moldings. When I turn that on, you'll see that the molding is back. Also, let's go ahead and unblock this from an architectural block. I'll just use the unblock command. Open up the cabinet itself. Again, the molding went away because I unblocked it. Let's go into the cabinet itself. Again, on the general panel at the bottom is the same setting. Do not cut the room moldings. That's now included inside of the cabinet or an architectural block, allowing you more control for your moldings when you want them to exist behind a furniture style cabinet. Well, that concludes this session on customizing cabinets. Thanks a lot for watching. Okay, thanks everybody, and let's see if we've got some questions here that I'm going to make sure I share my screen here. See if everybody can see this okay. So I'm going to open this up for live questions. As you get ready to do so, please raise your hand and then we'll call on you. As you do that, be prepared to unmute your microphone. And I'm going to just turn it over to Carrie here and let her curate any questions that may have come in.
Hey, Scott, we have a question from Aaron Burks. Hi, Aaron, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Hey, I appreciate this webinar on the cabinets. Thanks for doing that. What I'm curious of is if we're doing a angled cabinet in a corner that's not at a right angle, if you could spend a little minute helping to fit that cabinet up against the wall and then the edges and how that interfaces with the cabinets to its right and left.
So when you do an angled cabinet, let me just grab maybe one of my plans here. Make sure I understand your question. Let's grab.
Well, and I may have misspoke. I would say more if the wall is at an angle that we're placing cabinets to that's not a right angle.
Okay.
And trying to get those a custom angle, not 45, not right angle. Yeah,
Okay.
something like that. That's what I'm talking about.
All right. So are you in a condition where I've got a wall that's kind of angled at a 45 or so that is like that, and you want to do an angle like this?
Yep. Yep, very much so. Now the face of the cabinet would also be at an angle though. So it'd be if your bank were turning, so to speak.
Okay.
So a non-square room.
Right. So in this case, what I've got, Aaron, let me just take a 3D view of this. What I've got here is a couple of back angled cabinets. You can see this cabinet over here off to the left that I've kind of created as a pie shape in here. And when you open up these cabinets, as much control as I have over this cabinet as the angle, you can go in and set the left and the right depth. Of course, it needs to be an angled front in your cabinet type, right? And then if you rotate around a little bit, you can see that you have control over the different face items. I have a face item on the two sides in here. You can control that off to each of the sides by clicking down, and you look at the different components in here. In this case, I have the back selected. I've got a set of double doors. And so I guess this is the amount of flexibility we have in being able to set the left depth and the right depth in that case.
Well, thank you very much for that.
Does that cover your question there?
It addresses part of it, yeah. And I was not using the left and right depth probably to its fullest advantage, so I will be able to sort out what I've been working with using that method, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Great. Well, thanks for calling in today.
Oh, thank you.
Scott, we have a question from Laura. Hi, Laura. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, I actually was just watching one of your videos on putting the. I always seem to have a problem getting those the sinks into the, if you're not using a sink that goes right into the cabinet. I know one of your videos I was watching that showed putting the apron sink in there, and I was following it. I ended up getting it in the long run, but it seems, I'm wondering if they might make that a little bit easier in X13 if there are any provisions for that.
Yeah, so an apron sink are really kind of designed to sit on top of the cabinet. So they don't insert into a cabinet as an undermount might. And so there's a couple ways depending on what you're doing with those sinks. One, if they don't have any stiles on the sides, if they're taking up the entire cabinet, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just set the cabinet lower, say pick a number like 24 inches, and then I'll just set the apron on right on top of that, position it in the plan view. And then in the case where you do have a stile reveal that goes up where the apron's slightly smaller, then a lot of times in that case, I might make the top of that cabinet, instead of it being a drawer, make it an opening, and then I'll just place the sink separately, position it vertically, and those are kind of the two ways that I do that. I don't know that we have an improved method for that other than those two options.
Okay, yeah, I actually had done the second option.
Mhm.
And I was, I cut the surface to pull it back, but the front
Sure.
was still hanging there, and it was just a
Uh-huh.
little awkward, I mean, I
Okay.
used to keep running back to the videos to figure that out, but I
Right.
mean, you can work in the long run. I just didn't know
Yeah.
if there was to make it a little easier.
Well, the good news is those videos that we have out there, you can always pause them and take your time and work
Yes.
through it.
Okay, thanks so much, and thanks for the great webinar.
Yep. Thanks for calling in, Laura.
Scott, we have Natasha Young here with a question. Hi, Natasha. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, Scott. Thanks.
Hi,
I'm
Natasha.
curious- Hi. So many of those two-door cabinets on the wall that you opened, they would say auto left and auto right. And I'm curious why it's not categorized as double door.
Yeah. Well, if you look, let me just grab our different plan over here, and let's take a look at the definition of why those work that way. So we'll kind of rotate around here. So in this case, if we look at this cabinet, this wall cabinet here, and I resize this to 21 inches, this is considered an auto door, and it's either it's going to be an auto right door, I believe. And if you go in there and you look at the door by clicking on it, I'll slide this over. When it's an auto door in our program, that means that it will resize at 26 inches to be a double.
Okay.
And so at that point, you can force this to be either a single door by coming down here and just saying that it's a door left or a door right. And then when you resize it, it will not become a double door when you pass that 26-inch threshold. So that's why we don't actually call that auto door a double or a single, because it will dynamically update when you resize it. And if you do want to force it to be the double door, then you can come down and use it to be a double door. And then again, when you resize that past the 24-inch point, it will still remain at a double door.
Gotcha. So I already asked this of the staff and they said no, but just so you know, it'd be a great improvement.
They already said no. Okay.
Yeah, but because we like to do a double door starting at 24, so it'd be great to set up the default to become a double door at 24 versus 26.
So yeah, and I think the request actually comes in as let that be user controlled. So while some manufacturers say that that's at 25 or 26 or whatever the number is, I think the request, if this is accurate, would say, let me control where that automatic jump between single and double occurs.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Just make a note here. All right, any other questions, Natasha?
No, that's it. Thank you so much.
Okay, yep. Thanks for calling in.
Scott, we have a question from Amy Hagen-Cowell. Hi, Amy. Go ahead and ask your question.
Good morning. Can you hear me, Scott?
Hi, Amy. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I have a range hood and a vaulted ceiling. And my range hood, I don't know how to extend the chimney up to meet the slope ceiling.
Okay. All right. So did you find this cook hood in our library?
Yes.
Yeah. Let me so and when you go to resize it, like in an elevation view, it's not resizing as you would like it to for your vault.
Right. it's lifting the whole unit up.
Okay, let me see if I have a vaulted plan here that's easy to grab. Okay, so I think if we open up this view that I have here, let's take a peek at this. So this should be a shed ceiling, which is somewhat of a vault. And you see how I have my hood stretched here?
Yes.
And I think what you may need to do is adjust the stretch plane in the symbol. So if I open this up, let's go ahead and peek at this and just check. And I'm going to use this tool called Open Symbol. So I'll just pause here for a second so you can see that. It's Open Symbol. It's a little chair with a pencil, lower left-hand section of my menu. So let's take a peek at this. And I'm going to go over to the, let's go down to the options. Where is this? 3D sizing. Okay. So this is superimposing a stretch plane over the top of my symbol down here. And so by putting that stretch plane in here, that means that when I stretch that, it's going to use that area to resize the symbol.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes it depends on the symbol. Could be it's an older symbol, or maybe we didn't put a stretch plane in there. And if we didn't, maybe it's going to stretch and it's going to distort maybe the bottom rail of your hood is part of that. And all of a sudden you stretch it to fit, you know, this space in here. And it becomes, instead of, you know, a 4-inch rail, it becomes, you know, 15 inches by the time you go all the way up to the ceiling, right?
Yeah.
So just check that for the stretch planes. There's a help option down here, but there's a visual indicator in here that shows you where that stretch plane is located. And I might just pause here and just see if Adrian wanted to maybe add a little bit into how these work.
I don't know that I have a lot to add. It's pretty great that you can turn on those previews so you know exactly where you're interacting with the geometry. But when you put a stretch plane in, you just kind of imagine that the program is cutting the symbol in half where you see that green plane. And then when you increase the height of the object, it's going to fill that cut plane with the surfaces. And then the reverse is true. It's just going to smush the surfaces together at that cutting plane if you make the object smaller.
Is that stretch plane already determined, that location?
Well, in this case, Amy, what I've done here is I've added this stretch plane in here, possibly. I can't remember. It's been a while. If it wasn't in there, I added it in there. So I've just come in here, put a stretch plane in, and then you can type the value in that you want. And then visually, you can see exactly where that's showing up.
Okay.
So just when you see your symbol and you've placed it, go down into your lower edit menu and use this open symbol, and that is actually on the sizing panel down here.
Okay.
And it gives you obviously the bounding box, that's the bumping zone. But then you can set up stretch paint planes in here and just kind of look at it. You can set stretch planes to be horizontally, vertically, and so there's a few different ways. Sometimes I get confused about it too and have to resort to the help button down here that can also be beneficial.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Hey, thanks for calling in today.
You bet.
Hi, Scott. We have Cheryl Donahue. Hey, Cheryl, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, Scott. Thank
Hi,
you.
Cheryl. Hi, Cheryl.
I have actually 3 questions. You talked about appliances, the cabinet there on your right, and you put in a double oven and a warming drawer, and you fit those right into, you know, a cabinet that makes it look like it's flush. How do you do flush? Is there an easy way that we can show flush installs? In other words, kind of looks like it has a door surrounding it. Because quite often we have to put appliances in cabinets that are a bit larger
Mhm.
than required for the cabinet itself.
Okay, so that's question number one. Let's see if we can get them all written down, and then we'll see if we can go in and take them.
Okay, question number 2 is, and these all have to do with how we can control to make, we do a lot of frameless full overlay, and we kind of tend to make it look like a flush, like an inset cabinet, the way we design these things. And we use gable end panels on walls, tiles, and bases. And that, I don't know if that term is commonly used, but for us, it means that the side panel comes proud of the cabinet itself and is flush with the door. And
Okay.
then, and my third question is, again, better control of moldings on cabinets, so that, you know, you could put a crown molding. Really, it's more the light rail and the fascia that we have. So you can put you can make the molding go horizontally or vertically, and increase the size so you can bring it flush to the front of the door on the top of the cabinet, for instance. But it also extends out over the sides, which is fine if I have a decorative door on that side. But when I'm trying to place a light rail, for instance, under the wall cabinet next to like that chimney vent that the previous lady was talking about, it will also extend out. So I need that right side or left side, depending on what side the cabinet is on, to be flush with the cabinet, but I want the front of it to pull out flush with the front of the door. So I don't have enough control over the moldings to say, you know, extend the left side, extend the right side, like we do with countertops. Like, it would be really great if I could do that like I do with a countertop.
Okay, well, let's take a look. I think your first question had to do with appliances and how to make them flush. And just so I understand your question, if we take a side view of this and we look in between right in here, obviously this style of an appliance isn't really kind of designed to be probably a flush cabinet. But are you doing that with inset cabinets?
We do it with inset cabinets, but we do it more with our frameless
Okay.
full overlays, and then we create what we call a yoke, and we have it cut and finished on the inside of the frame, and then we put the appliance in, so it looks like it's a door, you know, like a part of the door around the outside of the cabinet.
And basically what you want to do is you want to push this appliance into the cabinet further.
Well, not really.
At least the look of it.
The look of it is, yeah, it looks like it's set inside.
Okay.
Make it look like an inset cabinet.
So I may not be the best person to do this. I may probably ask Adrian, but I'm assuming that this has to do with the symbol offset. We were kind of looking at that briefly with that last question of being able to adjust the stretch planes. There's also a symbol offset. Adrian, is that a fair assessment? Is that how you think we might push this in?
Yeah, I think so. What you would probably do to make it live inside the cabinet still is work with that where Scott was showing the bounding box preview. When we set up some of these symbols is we take the geometry that gets normally inserted into the cabinet, so kind of the guts of the appliance, and we try to set the bounding box to be tight around that, so that the program thinks that that is the extent of the appliance. It sounds like for your application, you'll want the bounding box to come right up to the edge of the face of the appliance or its flange. And then that way the program will think that's where the appliance stops and the cabinet starts. So you'll be able to get an overlap there. So Scott, if you click on the bounding box preview, which is the top far right button, it's a toggle button on the very far right side of the dialog. Yeah, click on that. And then I think if you kind of navigate in the scene, you can see there's that, it must be a dotted, oh, you're zoomed in close. So that is the bounding box of this drawer. And this one, it appears, is right up to the edge of that outside of the geometry. So that's good. So if you want the face of the warming drawer, in this case, to go back into the cabinet a little bit, then what we'll do is set the origin to be even deeper so that the program thinks it needs to insert that appliance deeper into the cabinet. I think you'll do that just on the 3D panel. And that Y value, I always have to mess with it myself. To
Maybe
remember
2
the-
inches different?
Probably only like an inch. I'd make it like 24.
24.
Yeah.
Okay, so that pushed it back. I don't know if you saw that, but it looks like it pushed it back. Okay.
So now try, let's see what happens if you put that into a cabinet.
Yeah, let me just make sure that I rename this guy so that it's, I know which one it is. Okay. So let's just grab this next cabinet over here and let's open it up. Let's go to the bottom of the area and we'll switch this to an appliance. Browse out to the library. I'm going to grab the one that I created. That's pretty close, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, if I was understanding that, I think, is that what you were looking for?
Well, it kind of.
And then
Because-
you might
but
use the
if you
cabinet.
put it up, if you did that with the one up at the top, then it wouldn't be flush with the door. So it's almost like I have to create an inset cabinet to do what I'm wanting to do.
So you want it to be even with the door.
Yes. So it would be like I had a
Sure.
slab
Mhm.
door on the front of that opening and I cut a hole in
Right.
it. And I put my appliance in there.
So in that case, then we'll just make a slight adjustment. We'll go back into that symbol. And instead of 24, we'll just maybe 24. And then we'll replace that one more time.
Can I ask a question here? Scott?
Go ahead, Al. Yeah.
Are you trying to put an appliance in a cabinet that's actually larger than the appliance is meant to be in?
Yes.
All right. All right. So you're supposing you have a 36-inch range, you're trying to put it into a 38-inch cabinet, and you need basically a filler that's going to go around the perimeter that this thing
Correct.
is going to go into.
That's right.
Is that what you're looking for?
Yes, and I've tried to do it with moldings. I've tried to do it with making like a blank, not a blank area, like not an opening, like a door, like a slab door on it, and then slide the appliance in, but it takes the door off. So I just wondered.
Have you tried changing the side styles?
Change side styles.
Yeah, I think you can manipulate the thickness of those. Can't you?
I don't know if you can, but let's take a look.
Can I
Go ahead.
interject something here, Scott?
We'll get everybody involved here.
So that's what I was thinking too, Al, in that clarification. And I think that if you can place an appliance outside the box, right? So we can control its position. And if you make the lower cabinet a little bit deeper, then you can place the appliance wherever you want in there. Then you have a deeper cabinet that comes out to the distance that she wants on a lower cabinet, and then the upper cabinet has the doors or whatever is configured above that. So you'd have that deeper cabinet that way. So you just have to treat it with 2 separate cabinets.
You're also suggesting, Derek, that you can just place these appliances. I'll do this in a plan view. You can place these appliances as a freestanding item, and then you can move it around however you want, position it exactly where you want.
You got it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that
Yeah,
may
I'll
be.
try that.
Yeah, that might be.
One
That
thing
might-
you may be able to try is to just use a blank, like a slab door on the area where the range is going to be, and set the range on the floor, position it, and you can always use the control key to move that range into the cabinet right through that door. As long as it's sitting proud and you don't see the door behind it, it'll sit there.
Hmm,
And you might
Okay.
get the look you're after.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so you had 2 more questions. Let's make sure we get through these pretty quickly. One is you wanted to have a cabinet end panel that's proud. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it should come from the back of the cabinet, all the way flush with the front of the door.
So
And
you
right
want
now
it right to the edge of this door.
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
And when you put an end panel on a cabinet, it's going to end at the box before, it goes proud of that door, right?
Correct. What I
So-
do now is I created I've created end panels
Mhm.
and I apply them manually every
Sure.
time. There's a way to
Yeah.
do it. I was just wondering if we could do that easier.
Yeah, I think that's the easiest way to do it because, again, when you select this cabinet, it's going to end right at the edge of the box. And so if you want it to extend in past the box to the thickness of that door, you'll want to place a side panel separately, and you can easily do that. It sounds like you're familiar. You just grab a panelized door. You can click these. The program may tell you, and you've got these panel doors. You can rotate them around and then position them however you want right against that cabinet.
Hmm.
And that's the easiest way to do that.
Okay.
Okay, so your last question is about moldings. It looks like I grabbed a glass panel. That'll be pretty nice. Your last question was about moldings and being able to have control over them. And let me just open up this cabinet. We've done a few changes in here with our molding control. And let's see if this is going to help you. So on our molding panel, one of the things that we've done is we've added a new feature down here to offset the molding for face items. And if I delete this top molding, let's delete the top one so we don't get too confused in here. So we just have one molding on here. So right now, this molding, if we look at it, we'll zoom way in on the dialog over here. You
That's
can
exactly what I'm asking for. That's perfect.
see, good. So yeah, this is a new feature. It's in X13 and it's to offset it for the face items. It's flush on the box, but it's also now flush with the face item.
Excellent. But I have to upgrade to X13 to get that?
Well, if you're a current SSA member, when the new version comes out next year, then that's always a free upgrade as long as your SSA is current.
Well, my SSA is current, but I was hoping I didn't have to wait until next year. But thank you
Well,
for doing that.
yeah, so we'll be going into the beta program probably after the first of the year. You can always apply for that, assuming you're accepted. We don't charge for it, but you can then start using it as a beta, and then after we go through the beta program, then we eventually release the program. And that's one of the great new features we'll be announcing in there.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You bet.
Let's check in with Corinne Willis. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, I feel like this is a silly question now because I'm a basic user, but I was wondering if, like your whole kitchen design, you do it all, you do it in a painted shaker, and then all of a sudden the client says, no, I want a wood slab door. How do
Okay.
you change everything without clicking on all the individual cabinets and moldings and
Okay. Well, let me just take a peek here and just make sure I have something that I can open up here. So one of the easiest ways, Corrine, let's take a look at this plan. Let me switch this back over to our standard view. And if I understand your question right, you want to switch out all the door styles?
yeah,
Or the
either
color?
all the door styles, like let's say they want to go from a slab to a raised panel, or yes, everything in the kitchen is white and now all of a sudden they want everything blue.
Okay. Well, the easiest way to do the color change is, let's just open up the library here. And let's go in and find one of our favorite colors. So we'll just come down to one of our paint companies here. And let's assume that we've found this really great new color that is popular, that the client thinks they want. So we've picked one of the Benjamin Moore colors in here. And I'm going to apply this to the entire room. So there's a room mode with this material painter. And if you look in my far bottom left-hand corner of my menu, you'll see a bunch of spray cans: component, object, room. The other ones are floor and plan. But if I'm in room mode and I want to come in here and click, it's going to replace that color for the entire room quickly. So you find the color, you click in room mode, and you know, another way to do it is to use a tool called the Style Palette. Have you heard of this tool?
No.
Okay, let me see if I can pull this over here. And let's just take a 3D overview of this particular kitchen. So what a style palette is, much like in the real world, you're going to have a selection of different colors. And one of the things that what I'll do sometimes, just to kind of convey what that means, is in this example, I've kind of gone through and built 5 different rooms. And they all have different door styles, different backsplashes, different color combos, and also the room colors, right? So I've gone through and picked these colors individually out. I've kind of set them up in this style. Then I've added them to my library as a style palette. And let me just make sure that I can find these in my program here. So if you look at my style palettes, if I click on this, and let's just pick on the one that's in the center of the screen that we can see here. So this style palette right here is in my library, and I've clicked on these items and added them and created a style palette. And then when I go back over into that plan we were looking at, and let's just kind of scope this to be room-based. Let's grab one of the options. I'm going to make sure that it's room-based. I can now apply that to the entire room by grabbing the material style palette and clicking on the room. So option 2, click in the room. It will change the door styles, the colors, the countertops, anything that I've added into the style palette, and very quickly transform that room that I could use for options for the client. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Where did you go to build this style palette?
Yeah, so we'll chat this out, but when you go in and you look at style palettes, we did a specific webinar on style palettes, and it's a really powerful feature. So if you build these style palettes, then you can use them, you can save them into your library, and then you can just apply them. You could have pastels, you could have traditionals, you could have, you know, craftsman, and then apply those into your design just as I've done here.
Okay, great.
Do you like that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, oh, the door styles, would that just be an
Sure.
object wrapper?
Yeah, and so the door styles, in this example, when I apply this, you'll notice that the door style is a little bit different. Let's go back into this plan because I probably have changed it. And so any one of these door styles, you can set it up and change it. So you see how I have a different door style in here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you can build those. And then when you go into your style palette and you look at how you want to modify these for your wall cabinets, we can just look at the properties and what you want to transfer for those door styles in here. So you can transfer all the properties. There's probably 100 different properties. The height of the cabinet, the width of the cabinet. So you can define exactly what that is. And if we were just looking at door properties, we'll just type that in. Here are all the door properties that I could actually transfer when I use that style palette. Quite a few settings in here. I would encourage you to maybe watch that webinar that we did specifically on style palettes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Scott, we have Jennifer here with a question. Hi, Jennifer. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, I am relatively new using Chief Architect. I think about a year I've been really using it for all my projects. And I cannot figure out how to apply baseboard molding to the sides and back of an island.
Okay. So I have an island here, right? And you want to put a molding on this island?
Yeah, like if I say I do a paneled back and paneled sides, I generally apply a baseboard at the bottom to the floor on the sides and back of the island.
All right, so if I want just a molding on the side of this cabinet, I'd probably use a molding polyline to do that.
Okay, and that's what I ended up doing.
Okay.
I just didn't know if there was an easier way using the molding dialog in the actual cabinet.
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, if I were just to put a molding on the end of this, I think the easiest way I might do it is I might just do it in an elevation view and draw it on there using a solid. So
Okay.
come in here with the elevation camera. We'll just kind of click and drag through here. And let's just delete that chair for the time being. So as we come in here and we're looking at this, I probably just come in here and use a solid. And this would just assume that I'm not using a profile on it. And there it is. If you do want a profile on it, then you can, let's just do it both ways. So we'll slide this over. You can use the molding polyline. I'm going to use the line tool and we'll just pick up the line and then I'm going to convert that line. Then I can put any sort of profile I want on it. So I've got this line drawn. I'm going to come into the lower edit menu down in my toolbar, convert that into a molding polyline. And then at that point, you can assign the molding profile that you want to it. So we just browse out and replace that. So we'll just grab something that looks a little bit more non-rectangular. And then we set the height of it to maybe be 4 inches or something. And then we just need to move that down. I'm just going to move that down 4 inches. So now I can take that molding, it has a profile on it, and then adjust it as I need to. You can just click on this, pull it out, and kind of position it how you want.
Okay.
So I usually like to draw those in an elevation view in that example.
Okay. I can do that. I just didn't know if there was a way to, you know, attach it similar to like you would a crown molding or a light rail or something like that.
When you want to be very specific and have a molding on one side but not on the other side, at that point, you probably want to do that manually outside of the cabinet dialog because the cabinet dialog is going to want to put this, I think, on all sides that are exposed.
Okay. Okay.
And yeah, so this may be one way you can accomplish that.
Gotcha. Thanks so
Okay,
much.
you bet.
Scott, we have a question from Ute. Hi, Ute. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, Scott. I have 3 questions. So when I increase the height of a cabinet or the width of a cabinet, the cabinet makers add a style if you increase the width, or a rail if you increase the height to add stability to a framed door.
Mm-hmm.
Is that possible in Chief Architect, so I can show my clients a correct door, how it will come from the cabinet company?
Okay. Why don't we go through and you tell me all 3 of your questions, and then we'll see what we can get through for you.
Yeah. And then is there a way to show the doors of the cabinets also on the floor plan, not just the box?
Okay.
And then my last one, it's kind of when I use the partitions and I use an elevation view, when the dimension always snaps to the center of the partition and not to the sides.
Oh, okay.
Is there a way to change that, or where can I customize that? How?
Okay. Okay, well, good questions here. Let's take a look at your first question. Let's go back around over here and let's see if we can maybe change this cabinet a little bit. And your first question was, you've got a pretty wide cabinet.
Correct. Which is,
and you want to put maybe an additional vertical member right in that door. Is that fair?
correct. That I can tell in the program this door has a center rail or center style.
Okay. Okay, well, one of the easiest ways to do that, you could manually draw it in there in an elevation view.
Okay.
The other way you could do it is if we just kind of come down and we find a door style. Let's see if I can find one in here that we could just switch out. I could switch the door style out that has a rail in there.
Okay.
And that might be the fastest way to do it. And then what you could do, this may be a branded one or a generic one. I don't know for sure where I grabbed this, but you can easily go in there, and if it's a specific manufacturer, you could always open up this cabinet. And if we go into the different components for this cabinet, and if we look at that door that I just added in here, I could always come in here and make that change to the door so that it's very specific. We could give it a name for that element, and then you could have that in your materials list or in your cabinet schedule for that item. So that may be a quick way to do it. Does that work for you?
Yeah, it's also that the client would like to see it in the perspective views. So
sure.
And also that it shows the details of the door profile. Mostly we do shaker style right now, but sometimes it's also nice to see the details on the styles or rails.
Yep. Well, we have a lot of cabinet manufacturers with most of the doors I think they've invented out there. And it's very easy to grab those and just apply them on there like I've just done here.
Okay.
And if you want to draw your own custom door styles, we should have an article or a video on that. We'll try and chat that out if you're interested in going to that level of detail. But if they're a shaker style door, I would imagine that most of the manufacturers or some of them have all of the door styles that are typically used. Okay, so your next question is you want to show your doors in a floor plan view. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. So let's take a look at what we have. Let me just delete this guy here. So for this cabinet, let's just check it. Let's slide over. And the first thing I'm going to do is let's just click on it. Let's open it up so that we can see what it looks like and just verify that we can see this in a floor plan view. Let's go back into our floor plan. And you can see that I now am seeing that door style. And if you click on the cabinet and you're looking at your layers, what that layer is on cabinet doors and drawers. So you'll want to make sure that layer is on.
Okay. So when you close the door,
Let's just close it. And you still want to see it, right?
yes, please.
And you can't see it, right?
No,
Let's
I do
go
not.
in. Yeah, I sometimes forget about this. Let's see, where is that setting? Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click on that door and I'm going to change the percent open to 0. And then I'm going to open it and show it to you that way.
All right. And
Does
I
that
can
work?
set this up in defaults, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, you had one more question.
Yes.
Partitions.
Yeah,
Let's
so
see.
if I add a partition, for example, next to, I like to use sometimes partition because I do not have the toe kick. It's easy, it's fast for dishwasher return panel. So, and on my computer, it doesn't snap to the sides. It always snaps to the center.
All right, so I have a 2-inch partition that's next to the double oven here. Let's take a wall elevation view and take a peek at this guy. Okay, so when you run your dimensions, you are getting the center of the partition. Is that right? And you want to get the
Correct.
ends?
Yeah, when I use the NKBA elevations, the automatic ones.
Okay, well, let's start there and let's just take a peek. So I've clicked on my automatic dimension tool. And before I click on these automatic dimensions, let me just verify what my dimension defaults are. Let's just see. They're kitchen and bath. If you're using an older version, they might be called NKBA. It's one and the same. And if we just kind of go in here and look at what it's supposed to be locating, right now, really, we're interested in what it's locating for the cabinets, countertop. Really, the sides and corners probably are the most important thing to have selected. So when we use this tool, it will be using those dimension defaults. So let's go ahead and run that. So right now, it's picked up the edge and you're getting it to the center. Is that right?
Yes.
Let's pull this off and let's just check. Let's pull that off. And if I pull it on, let's get the center. I can't even get the center. Yeah, I got the center.
But if you put it to the end, it clicks to the end. I get it always to the center. So would that be in the dimensions that I have selected?
Yeah, you might check in your dimension defaults. Let's just go in and see if there's a setting for center. So when you're looking at picking up your cabinets, there is a center option here. And make sure that's not turned on.
Okay, I will play more, but I always have to change it. And then it just doesn't snap. I'm drawing a manual line, so it's driving me nuts sometimes.
Yeah, well, if it's still happening, maybe you could even send your plan into our support group and we'll take a look at it for you.
Sure, thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, Ute.
I guess that's all we have for today, Scott.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody for attending today. Just a couple of wrap-up things that I wanted to point out. One is to make you aware of resources that we have. We've been doing these webinars here on Thursday. We also have some virtual training seminars that are coming up. I'll show that here in just a second. We also are doing on-demand classes. These are self-paced classes that you can watch on the website. And then we do a one-on-one training. And those one-on-one trainings, it's screen sharing. It's you with one of our trainers. It's a great way to go through and learn the program. You don't even have to wear a mask when you're working with our trainers remotely. We have videos and how-to articles that are a great resource. Also, you can use Chief Talk. A community of the users are out there answering questions at an unbelievable rate. So a couple of great resources for you to use. And then as far as our schedules coming up, if we kind of take a look at our upcoming schedule, let's browse down and look at our live webinar training schedule. We have a virtual training event. It will be coming up the latter part of January. This is a 4-day event. And we will be doing the introductory, intermediate, and kitchen and bath courses. Those are 4 hours over the course of 4 different days. I mentioned the on-demand training. Those courses are also available on demand. As soon as you hang up from this session, you could run out and watch those classes on demand right now. And then these webinars that we've been doing every Thursday, next week, next Thursday, same time, same place, we're going to be focusing on space planning, room types, and we'll also be talking about what's coming next with respect to that. That will be a session that you can sign up for. Again, that's a free session. And then Friday, December 18th, we have a Chief Boot Camp. If you're a little bit new or trying to learn some of the basics of the program, again, this is a free session and a great way to learn and improve your chief skills. And then after the first of the year, that's a long ways away for most of us, we're going to be focusing on interior dimensions and then CAD tools and layouts and templates, and finally then 360 renderings. So these are the sessions coming up. I appreciate everybody attending today, and hopefully we will see you back here, same place, same time for the space planning tools and what's coming next. Have a great day, everybody.